Hi, green lovers. Well, I've got this 4 foot by 4 foot by, I guess, about 6 feet grow tent inside my bedroom, believe it or not. And I'm going to take you inside and show you what is going on. Now, most of the plants that I'm growing in here were started between 6 to 8 weeks ago. So let's take a look. So first, let's peek inside through the window. It's got this convenient little window here that you can look inside. However, I, for the most part, like to go inside and be with my plants. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. So the setup that I've got going here is I've got a couple of shelves and I've got a bunch of lights that are a little bit sporadically set up. I didn't really get it well organized, but it does the job. It's got an automatic thermostat over here, so I can control when other things like the fan or the heat mats, etc., come on and go off. So that's pretty convenient. And yeah, the fan is really important because it can get pretty humid in here. So let's first take a look at my sweet potatoes. Now, I planted these in this tray full of soil on top of a heat mat about 3 weeks or so ago. And look at all that growth, folks. Even got some roots popping out over here. So these are ready. I can actually start breaking these off. And then what I typically do is I put it in a glass of water and I let it root. But since these already have roots, I'm going to save myself a step. I'm going to plant these directly in soil. Where they don't have roots, if I break them off, I will put them in water first to develop some roots. So this is just a massive amount of sweet potatoes that are grown from leftovers that I had last year. So really nice to see that I can generate more plants every year from the same stuff that I grew the previous year. Moving on to this next shelf up. I actually got a whole bunch of zinnias that I started. Now, zinnias grow really quickly. So I started these on the 4th of February. Today is the 24th of February. So it is about 20 days that these have been in the soil, roughly 3 weeks. And they're growing pretty nicely. In fact, they're growing a little too fast. I probably should have waited to start them, but I was impatient. So I paid the price. Further up here, you can see I've got some water here. I bottom water these because top watering, especially in an enclosed environment like this, tends to make it develop fungus. So I like to bottom water for the most part. And then whenever I see a little bit of fungus starting to come on the surface, I just kind of rub it off, scrape it off, and that seems to do the job. I've not had any problems with damping off disease in this grow tent, this year at least. So I've got a few things like blue butterfly peas, I've got some black-eyed Susan, some lavender hyssop, etc. starting here. And then I wanted to swing around here and show you real quick. These are plants, actually I've moved them from these containers into this because guess what? These are tomato plants and they're getting huge. They need to be transplanted. Let me show you an example here. So I plant several tomato seeds usually in a container like this, and the plants have just gone way too large. I'm going to have to pot them up. And what I usually do when I pot them up is I remove the bottom leaves and I will plant this entire stem all the way to where the leaves at the top are emerging. And the nice thing about tomatoes is they develop roots all along the stem that is planted in the soil. And that makes the plant stronger. So I'm not too worried about the fact that these are falling over. They just grew way too quickly. A few other things that I'm also going to be taking out are my stevia. Now my stevia, this is the first year I'm growing stevia and it took forever to grow to this size. So I planted these on December 31st and you can see I do have several plants. The germination was pretty fast. They germinated in less than a week. But then from then until now, which is end of February, it took a whole 2 months to grow to this size. So very slow growing plant. Just keep that in mind. And I'm hoping that once I put it into larger containers, they'll have more access to nutrition and they'll grow faster. I've also got some basil. Now this is purple basil and it is not exactly doing that great. You can see some plants are bigger, some plants are very tiny. They're just crowding each other out. It's way too many plants in this size of a container. So I'm going to plant maybe 2 to 3 in larger containers. So they'll still be grouped together, but they will have more room and more nutrition and be able to grow better. These are purple basil and they are not as purple as I'd like them to be, but they do tend to get darker when I put them in some sunshine. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. Similarly, Genovese basil. You can see I've got a ton of plants over here, and these definitely need to move to larger containers. Got to be careful here. I'm going to break these tall, spindly tomato plants. Now, these here are dwarf tomatoes, and this is Geranium Kiss. I have grown these before. I really love them. They're an indeterminate tomato plant that grows no more than about 4 feet in size and produces full-size tomatoes. So it's pretty exciting to have dwarf tomatoes that produce for you throughout the season, and they produce full-size tomatoes as well. Excellent container variety. Look up the Dwarf Tomato Project to learn more. I've got a video on when I grew this last time, which was a couple of years ago. Got some more basil here. This is Coleus. Now, I love Coleus, and I've done videos on this. These grow into beautiful, gorgeous, ornamental plants. And so I'm growing 2 mixes. This is a rainbow mix, and the one over here is what's called a pinto mix. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous plant, and I highly recommend it. It is an annual where I live. It cannot stand a single day of freezing temperatures, so it will not last through the winter if you've got cold winters. So either bring them in over the winter or grow them every year. They're pretty easy to grow. There are a ton of plants over here, and each of them will get their own pot. Got a few peppers as well. Now, I don't like the fact that the leaves are so large. They actually look really healthy, but the leaves are actually pretty fragile, and I'm not liking the fact that they are growing so fast in such small containers. So I'm going to pot them up into larger containers, and then hopefully the stems will get a lot stockier and the leaves will get a lot thicker as well. Moving down here, this shelf is only about, 3 feet long, and these are 4-foot lights. So I'm got these trays with a hangover here, and they actually get light from over there. So maximizing the use of these shelves. Again, a ton of zinnias. I've got some marigolds back there, some more black-eyed Susan, and I'm growing this thing called Texas Blue Bonnet. Now, this thing apparently does not grow in California, but I am going to push my luck and see whether I can get it to grow and flower. Let's see. Gardening is all about experiments, right? Lots of other pepper plants over here. These will stay in here until I am ready to transplant them, but really most of them are ready to go into larger containers. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it, and I will have to do it over the course of the next few weeks. So I hope you enjoyed this quick tour, folks, and if you did, do hit that like button. It shows me that you appreciate the content that I produce, and I truly appreciate you watching my videos. Until next time, live green and love your greens.